Our guest today is Adrian Trimboli, founder of Fresh Start Advisory. Fresh Start Advisory are a buyer's agency with the ambitious goal of being the leading buyer's agency in the country by 2027. What a journey this one is, from nearly losing it all more than once to scaling to a team of 14. What will you get from this episode? Authenticity. Adrian doesn't pretend to know it all. He shares his mistakes, the value of understanding your numbers, but more importantly, that growing can actually be simple. Can't wait for you to listen. Welcome to The Leap, a business journeys podcast where we dive deep into the journey of business owners to learn from their successes and failures. Our goal? It's a simple one, to help more businesses succeed. Adrian, thanks for coming on, mate. How are you?
Very good, my friend. Thank you for having me.
Mate, my pleasure. Really excited to chat today. I know you're a transparent guy, so I've been looking forward to having you on and sharing your journey with our listeners. What's going on? How you been?
Very good. Very
busy?
good.
Busy?
Very busy. Very, very busy. Very challenging, but also very busy period.
Keen to hear more about it, mate. Why don't you start off, just tell us a little bit about the business and what you guys actually do.
Yep. So, Adrian, run Fresh Start Advisory Buyers Agency. So we help only investors build and scale profitable property portfolios pretty much across the entire country. Around that 500K mark is really where we go. But I mean, people and clients scale, and that's ultimately what we do.
Is the 500K mark because that's sort of like an affordability price point for mum and dad investors?
Yeah, once upon a time, 4 years ago, it was 300, 350. Everything since then has moved. So yeah, I mean, we still do purchase properties at 320, but we're now very much, our average, I was looking at it the other day, our average purchase price is around that 480 mark now, where it used to be 2 years ago, like 350. So yeah, that's just a sign of where the market is, but yes.
Amazing. And 4.5 years in business now?
Yeah, coming up to 5. Yep.
Yeah,
coming up to
awesome.
5.
And what's the current state? Like how many staff do you have at the moment? What does that sort of structure look like?
So we are at now 14. I was answering this question outside. I don't actually know the number. 13, 14, 15, around that. It's always constantly changing, but yeah, about a team of 14 of us or 15 of us.
Beautiful. And the first, like that growth that's come in sort of the last year and a half, most of that growth?
Yeah, we've kind of always been dabbing. I mean, this year we've hired 3 people. We'll probably hire another one more. So it actually hasn't been over the last year, but last year was kind of at 10, and then every year it's just been a few added on, really.
Yeah, awesome. Take us through, because obviously, like for most, and we'll get to how you actually got into it, how the idea was created. But was this your first bite of the cherry in terms of starting a business, or were there things prior to getting into this business?
Good question. I never actually officially started a business. Depending on what you consider a business, I did a lot of things in school, and
that's what I want to hear.
Okay, so I did,
because I feel like all of us have that story, right? Like it started somewhere.
Yes. So my brother and I were always very, I don't know if you can call it entrepreneurial or just opportunistic. This could be illegal in what we were doing, if I'm honest, but that's fine. I was a 95 baby, so when I was 17 years old.
I have no idea what you're about to say.
I know, which is, I mean, it's bizarre. I don't know if I've actually ever said this on live. I probably haven't. 95 baby. So when I was 16, 17, obviously you want to go out to clubs, right? And you're still too young, and
it's got to do with fake IDs.
Fake IDs. We made fake IDs.
100%.
We made fake IDs, essentially. We changed the 5 to a 3. Right, did you? Gangster. So we changed the 5 to a 3, and that was when I was in 17, and that actually paid for my first property, funny enough. So we went, I mean, not big time, but, decent, right? We did some serious numbers. That was my first ever try of a business. I don't know what
so I done the nail polish remover to remove the numbers,
Yes.
and got the clear film to stick over the top.
Beautiful.
And then sort of melt the edges so you couldn't see.
We had our little BDMs across all the schools.
Oh my! You were sophisticated.
We were sophisticated. My mum's house, I remember. But that was our first ever try. But then being serious, I've attempted to start a laundromat, didn't go ahead with it. A trucking GPS company, didn't go ahead with it. My family also run a family business as well. They've been running it for 25 years. So I was working in there as well. So a bit of, I definitely had my exposure to business, but never actually officially started one until Fresh Start.
So what stopped you pulling the trigger on, say, the truck GPS business? Like, how far did you get with that?
We got to the point whereby we were meeting with app developers, and then we just got to a point where we said, well, fuck, we need $350,000 to get this thing. I was 23 years old, earning $70,000. So it was just, difficult. And then it kind of just ventured off, but got very serious with it, drew up business plans and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. And with Fresh Start, talk to me about how did that idea come about, and how did you actually decide, all right, this is what we're doing?
So I bought my first property at 18, shitbox around the corner from my house. My mum...
Goodbye, Coburg.
Brunswick, no, shitbox, the little one-bedroom apartment. Sold it 8 years later for a loss.
Okay.
So
Ooh.
really bad.
Okay.
But for timing purposes, I bought 3 properties, and on the third property I bought, the broker ran off from us. I had to come up with $360K in 4 days, or I was going to lose my $60,000 deposit and the property itself. So I was a 23-year-old kid, so I had to go around my family. I said, I need this, otherwise I'm going to lose it. Paid them all back. That was that. 1 month of that, Frank, my business partner, also went to a buyer's agency and bought a property, and the property came $60K under market value. That happened 1 month of each other, and that was both on our third property. So you would think we knew what we're doing. We had no fucking idea what we're doing.
Yeah.
From that point, so that was 6 years ago, we just dedicated our life to property. And I know that sounds waffly, but we read every single book, we went to every single seminar, and we just started going and going and going. And then I was already kind of helping friends, like they were coming to me, where should I do this? Where should I do this? And I came across a course, Ben Handler's course, BAI, saw it, called Frank up, and I just said, hey, I'm going to start a business. And he just went, okay, let's do it. A bit of convincing.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's how it started. So it came off the back of our pain, ultimately.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's the best businesses, right? Because you know what not to do from a service perspective as well.
For sure.
What was like, was there much sort of testing in... Yeah.
Testing? Like testing?
You know what I mean? Like, it sounds like that wasn't the case, right? How do you know if it's like, all right, there's a market here? Was there, run ads or something like that to be like, okay, like there's some interest here, or it's just like, nah, we're passionate about this. Like, walk me through, opening the doors.
Horrendous. Like really, really, really bad. Like genuinely, we didn't make money for the first 2 years, and we probably should have quit, if I'm honest. And I've said this multiple times. Like, we probably should have quit because, like, we just had no strategy. It was just let's just film a couple of videos and let's just do this. I think we the first year I think we lost 40 grand, 50 grand. Money we didn't have. I mean, obviously we had it, but we were just working in our jobs. I don't think we got a client for the first year.
Really, the full first year?
The full first year.
That's, yeah.
And a lot of people do quit by that point, right? And I say that because now I coach, buyers agents coming in, and I hear a lot of them do that, and they quit, especially after a year. And then the second year, we probably hit like 10 clients, so maybe made like 70K in revenue, still lost money.
Yeah. So how did you, like year one, everyone's throwing in the towel year one, right? Like, where did you get that? I don't know, like why did you continue, right? Like what was it that was in you, or what did you see that you're like, no, I can see that this is going to work?
Frank is very religious. He's kind of brought me on that side. I'm not going to talk about religion here, but he's very religious. So he's always had faith. But I don't think that's what this comes down to. I actually think it comes down to the fact that we were just to be very upfront, both very unhappy with our lives. Mm-hmm. We both didn't like what we were doing. We weren't in relationships, and I just don't think we were extremely confident. And I actually think that's a good thing. I actually think that if you're in a position where you're just like, fuck, this has to work because I'm not going back to that. I think that was actually beneficial for us, because we would just look at each other and just say, well, let's just keep it rolling. Until we started getting momentum. Like, maybe I'm making it sound a bit worse. Though 10 clients over a year, for us, we were like, fuck, this is like, we've scaled 10 times from last year. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
But I think that was the underlying thing. The fact that we just could not, we could not go back to where we wanted to, where we were. Frank was a mechanic for 10 years.
Wow. So was there a change like year one? Like, was it just, time? What happened for you to get those 10 clients in that second year?
Just repetition.
Yeah.
Which we still do now. Like every single week for the last 2 years, I've made a video on a Wednesday, and it's just a very simple-minded person. Just do the video, and it's just my hump day video. And I think both Frank and I have just held that trait, which is it's just repetition now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those 10 clients, like in terms of, when you first started, what was the sort of method for trying to acquire customers?
The first 10 were all our network. So people on social media who see us, who know us, just saying, oh, these guys are doing this. So that was really referrals. There was one method that we used. We don't obviously use it anymore, but we would go into other Facebook groups and we would just comment and give value. People posting. We did sign one client from that. There was also because at the start it wasn't just investors, right? It was homeowners and investors and trying to do 50,000 things, right? Because we had no idea what we're doing. We would go to auctions, and the underbidder, we would be there in suits, 2 kids in suits. Frank drives a 1990 Hilux, right? Like fucked. We'd get out in suits, not in the front of the auction, but we'd get out in suits and we'd walk up to the auction and pretend we'd be looking there to bid, and we would go to the underbidders and we would say, I'm really sorry for what happened. Do you want to buy a property through a professional? So we did that. We got one client out of that. But yeah, really referrals, to go back to your question, referrals, organic social media, and then Facebook groups ultimately were the first 10 clients.
Fuck, see, this is the thing, right? And you looking at it the first 2 years, there's 2 of you, it's taking you 2 years to get to, 70, 80K in revenue, right? Like, what's the reality of those first years? Like, what are the sacrifices, the things that, people see now and they're like, oh, wow, 15 staff, great social media presence, what are the realities of those first 2 years? What does that look like? What do you have to sacrifice?
Well, we probably couldn't have done it without COVID payments. We got the COVID payments, so that was the income for us.
True.
But what was sacrificed? So Frank and I lived together for 2 years while we started the business, and to be honest with you, just everything just went to that. Still was being somewhat social, but I think it was just, we'd wake up at 4:30 in the morning, we'd stretch together, we'd work out together, we'd come home and it'd be 7 o'clock, and then we'd work till 9 p.m. at night.
Fuck, that's really cute.
It was lovely.
Yeah.
It was lovely. There's not many people I could do that with, right?
Because it can be lonely, right?
Yeah.
I've had many years alone in the trenches when I first started, and that's, I've always had an office, like pretty much from the early days.
Yep.
But it's, like I always walk in there, I've got little mantras, and I say, look, this is where I'm successful when I walk in,
Yep.
right? But I'm still there alone every single day.
Yeah.
I'm speaking to people flat stick, but it's hard not having a soundboard to be like, should we try this? Should we do
100%.
that? How important was that to have Frank there?
I've walked into Frank, so when we were living with each other, I would be up, it was in a 3-story townhouse. I'd be in the upstairs, he'd be in the middle, and then, I'd walk down to his thing. I remember this was kind of year 3, 2.5, year 3, we were spitting out, we were losing $60,000 a month, right? So even like we scaled, we went to, like, this is not an established company, but we scaled. And I remember that period for like 6 months. I'd walk into Frank's office every week and I'd be like, Frank, like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And Frank doing vice versa to me sometimes. And he would just laugh at me and just go, shut the fuck. Like,
so is this year 3?
Yeah, this is more year 3. So we just not understanding finances ultimately. Now we've got a CFO and our finances would be, like, it's a different world. But year 3, we really scaled pretty quickly. We went from us 2 to like a team of 7, getting a lot of deals through the door, but property purchase. We're going to charge it uncon. We've got to pay for this. We've got to pay for BAS. We've got to pay for just not understanding it, right? Not having that. So that was when we were literally losing $60,000 a month for 3 months straight. And then there's a whole nother story on top of that. But to go back to your question, multiple times I've walked into Frank's office or called Frank and said, fuck, I think I'm done, and vice versa. So without him, I would not, Fresh Start wouldn't be here.
Yeah. So I'm actually interested to probe a little bit deeper there, right? So
Please.
like what that year, so you've grown and scaled, but it was like you didn't, like, walk me through that, right? Was it a sense of, let's just try and get the numbers up? Was it, splashing a lot on social media and ads? Like, where do you think, now that you've got the advice and you've got a CFO in, what were the lessons that you learned during that sort of growth period in year 3?
Cash is king. That's definitely the first one. It doesn't matter if you do 15 deals in a month, 15 people coming on and 15 purchases or whatever it is, cash is king. And if there's not, our bank account was down to $4,000 with a team of 7. So we Frank and I didn't pay ourselves. So cash is king. I cannot be expected, with no financial literacy around business and no, obviously, running a business and running a sales team and I cannot possibly do as good of a job in running the finances of a company than a professional who's done it for all his life. That would be the second thing. And probably the third thing would be that if you make a decision to hire someone, it's not a decision because you think. It needs to be a calculated decision. And then fast forward to what the decisions are today. There's board meetings now that we have when we make a decision to hire someone, and there's calculations of the impact that it's going to have on profit, or so on and so forth. So it's just a completely different world. But those would be my 3 top lessons.
Like, you checking the bank account that day with 7 staff, and you've got $4,000 in the bank account. What did that feel like at that moment? Like, was it real at that point that you're like, this could be it?
Yeah. So I don't know what's happened, or if I was good in my past life or whatever it was. We were very blessed to have met Sebastian, who's now our CFO. And he came in, and it was about 2 months in of us losing the money, losing money, and he just said, okay, this is literally going to blow up. And within a week, he reviewed everything that we did, he had access to everything, the bank account, zero, he had everything. And he called me up. I remember the night. He called both Frank and I up, and he said, boys, you need to fire 3 people tonight. You're no longer putting money into ads, and you guys are not paying yourself. And that was like, oh, okay. To be fair, both Frank and I looked at each other and we laughed and we said, all right, let's get it done. But yeah, if I'm being honest, yes, I probably did not think that we'd make it out of it. It's very, very daunting. I had to call my best friend. So my best friend, who I convinced to leave his very comfy job at PEXA and take a pay cut, within 3 months, I had to call him up. My best friend for 15 years. I'm his best man at his wedding.
Wow.
And call him up and say, Rawad, we can't pay you anymore. Rawad again laughed and he said, why are you telling me? Let's get to work. And now Rawad's just about to become a partner in the company. So there you go.
Way.
Yeah. So very, very scary. Very, horrible. We had another gentleman who was with us. We had to tell him he's gone. We're now no longer friends with him. He was a great friend. Challenging, but so grateful I went through it.
I was talking about this with a mutual friend of ours recently. I've learned the lesson that I won't hire people that I know anymore. But yeah, I've seen it often.
Right.
Great example of the Rowan was it Rawad being like, no, I'm in this, right? Like let's make this work. But I think it's hard sometimes to separate the two things.
And I take the same lesson as well. I'm fairly lucky in the sense that the 2 people, my 2 best friends, Frank and Rawad, who I've decided we obviously are in business with, we share the exact same values. But the due diligence around that probably wasn't done, right? Rawad, very easy. He's my best friend. I know how he operates. But yeah, absolutely. Like, that could have turned very, very sour. I would have lost a very good operator and my best friend of 15 years by bringing him in and then obviously not having a secure business ultimately.
And I think this is the crazy part, right? I think perception versus reality sometimes. Like I had a friend say to me the other day, he's like, "Oh, doing so well with the podcast, the business, like I see all these sorts of things." I'm like, relax. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't made it, brother. You know what I mean? Hustling, but haven't made it, right?
Yep.
And I think you're year 3 and you've had to make that decision to be like, well, we didn't pay ourselves for the first 2 years, and now year 3, we have to pull back, not pay ourselves again for a period of time. Like it's tough.
100%.
I
actively push this on our social media, and I always say the same thing. All social media is bullshit, right? And even people that jump up on here, you look at it and I'm like, yeah, I'm in front of a camera and people are interviewing me. It's all great. There's fires going off all the time. It's all bullshit. And no one actually knows what they are doing in business. You do definitely get better. But yeah, everyone always thinks, I wish I had that. And now don't get me wrong. I love my business. It's a very profitable business and it's amazing and it's excellent. But if I'd told this, the same people would think that I'm in a position that is amazing to go through what I went through. 95% of them, 99% of them wouldn't actually go through that or wouldn't be willing to.
Yeah. Overnight success, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. Now talk to me like in terms of, where things are now. You obviously learn and become more sophisticated as you go through the journey. What are some of the things you're doing now that you weren't doing year 1, year 2 that are making a real difference?
Yep. Just because we're on the topic, the finance, right? We have the most amount of clarity that I think any business can have. Obviously, there's billion-dollar companies, right? But even our CFO, he's managed billion-dollar companies, right? He worked with the government. So the level of clarity that we do have with our finances and that clarity, what that actually translates into for every bit of decision, every decision we make is like, that's I put that, and I've said that first because that is like, I just know we just know exactly where we can pivot and where there's risk and when we can make that move and what we can do, right? So that's important. I think the strategies to acquire clients is very much now segmented. It's not throw 500 things at the wall and hope a few things stick. It's like, this is what we're doing. Next quarter, we will try this. The quarter after, we'll try this. So I think that's very important. And then, like we have a business plan that we are so regimented with now. So it's like everything's just very tailored and structured. Very simple. Very simple. Frank couldn't read, 7 years ago, right? And I'm half retarded, right? So it's not that it's, very sophisticated and whatnot. It's very simple stuff, but it's just really, really regimented with the business plan, with the strategies that we choose, and even with the finances.
So which levers do you pull now? Like what things have been working at you? Because I always look at, because it's overwhelming, right? Like even running my business, we're talking about this before, like, opportunity to run some ads. There's, channel partnerships with people that, refer us business. There's, direct outreach through EDMs, campaigns on LinkedIn that you can run. Like this, and just calling people up. Like there's so many avenues to take. And sometimes you don't persist. It's not that something doesn't work, it's just you haven't persisted long enough. And then on the flip side, it's like, am I wasting my time because there's been no return, right?
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that. Like, how did you sort of discover what's working and what's not, and what is working for you today in terms of like actually generating business?
Good question. I think, so I go back to the business plan, right? So every single month we have a monthly financial meeting and we compare how we went compared to our KPIs. And that ultimately then determines, so if you don't have that, you don't really, like, you're not holding yourself accountable, you're not going, well, for an example, we had, you got to hit 20 purchases and 20 signups this month. Now, if you're not catching up with the team or even with yourself, if you're by yourself, which we were at the start, you don't really know how you're tracking, right? So for us now, it's like, well, here's our yearly goal. That's where we got to get to. How are we performing to that? Okay, we're at, we're on target right now. We're actually ahead of target compared to where we're 30% ahead of target, right? So everything is working really, really well. Last year, we were at this point of the year, we weren't performing. We were 30% under. So what did we have to shift in order to actually make up that gap? But now that we're ahead of target, ultimately for us, it's just like, okay, well, let's just keep doing exactly what we're doing. Now, what are we doing? We're running ads. We're very, very big on ads. We brought in a social media coordinator to build brand and to make the ads convert a lot easier. We will be running our first ever in-person seminar next year. And that's it. Like there's not actually that many levers. Our referral partners, like that's always the case. I'm just thinking over the last few months, we've ran like a huge client referral push, right? And a big organic push. But ultimately there's like only a few levers. Like there's actually not that many. Whereas back when I started, it was like Facebook message people, go to auctions, think about ads, do this and do this and do this. But now it's just quite a, like five.
Has the cost per lead, like I'm not big in the sort of like lead gen and Facebook marketing and running ad space, but like has that changed? The landscape changed over the last few years? Yeah, because it's gotten a lot more competitive in your space, right?
Yeah, there used to be. We were talking about it the other day because we're looking at a marketing agency at the moment, another marketing agency. Gone are the days of when it used to be $25 cost per lead. It's now like double ultimately, which it is what it is. It is what it is. It's still a profitable. It's worked for us. We've been running ads now for about 2.5 years. It's worked absolutely magnificent for us, and it will continue to work. But yeah, like in ads, what are we running it on? We're running it on Meta. Now we're thinking about, okay, we've hit a threshold. We spend a shitload of money on Meta every single month. Let's reduce some from there and throw it into TikTok, or let's reduce it from there. And again, a lot of these things, if I'm honest, I've got no fucking idea. I've got very, very, very intelligent people in my team who manage all these things, right?
But when you started, you were running like the videos yourself, right? You were just picking up the phone and starting there.
That's right.
Did you get traction with anything to be like, all right, sweet, this is definitely working. I'm going to get a social media person now?
Oh, no. So what happened...
Because there's so much stuff out there. Do you know what I mean? So like, I know you see people on social media, like, I'll see some recruitment people there. I'm like, oh, they're getting great traction. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you start pursuing things, but then you end up doing everything and, not focusing on sort of sales. Like, do you know what I mean?
I do. I think I probably missed the pivotal part where it went from no clients, 10 clients to something. We hired a business coach. And that business, so we've always had a business coach. We've now on to our 5th business coach in 4 years, right? Or 3 years. So it's just always, we just outgrow one and on to the next, which is excellent, right? That was the gentleman that ultimately took us through ads, and ultimately he set up our entire funnel. He'd built up already a multi-million-dollar business.
Interesting. A coach specific to...
Everything.
Yeah. Okay.
He was everything. He just marketing and sales was his thing. I've missed the question.
No. Keep going down that path though. So you were saying, like I was saying, you sort of get overwhelmed with how much stuff, but it was really this consultant that's
correct
that brought that into alignment for you.
Correct, and he ultimately brought it all together and said, "Cool, what's the goal? The goal's to scale. This is what we're going to do. We're going to focus on this for the next 3 months." In that 3 months, he turned us from not having ads to, I think in the 3rd month we signed like 9 people.
Really?
In ads, and then the next month we signed like 15, and then the next one was like 20, and then that's where we went and hired everyone. We had no idea about our finances, and then we hired everyone, and we started losing money from there because we obviously had no cap or no idea about what's going on. We didn't know where the ads money was going, where this was going. But yeah, we stuck. Like, and I truly do.
Was it the conversion on those leads? Like, was that the sort of initial?
Yeah, I think it was just because it was new, right? Like, it was only, like, there wasn't as many, in the last 3 years, there's probably been 3,000 new buyers agents that have come on.
Yeah.
So I don't know if people were running it as high, but I was doing all the sales calls and, like, everything was on me. So it was just, it was just perfect.
Was that like, because I think a lot of businesses will have that, we're really on here moment, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you've cranked the ads.
Cranked it.
And just leads have started to come through.
Cranked the shit out of it. And it was awesome, because it was me, Rawad, and Frank, right? 3 best friends, all working from the same house every day. And we're going, boys, this is going nuts, like we're to the moon. And we've always had that energy.
Yeah.
But like when it's actually coming, it's like, okay, cool. And then we're like, okay, we are on here. And then like that, and then bang, straight down. And we went nuts, and that was all fucked. But that was good. It was good fun. I'm so grateful for that lesson, genuinely. So grateful.
Oh, what I want to talk about next is, a little bit about AI and automation. I think it's sort of a big buzzword at the moment. I think there's this fear that it's going to replace people's jobs and and all that sort of stuff. But I think it has its place, and I think obviously people are looking at adopting it and using it in different ways. Has it been something that you guys have looked at? Is it part of your sort of processes at the moment?
I'm the most non-tech savvy person on the planet.
I love it. How serious.
The most non-tech savvy person on the planet, right? Like genuinely I am. I haven't even got Instagram on my phone. I've got to download it so I can take a few things for this podcast, right? Like genuinely.
Yeah.
Half retarded when it comes to AI or tech. However, what I am very good at is getting extremely intelligent people in the same company as myself. And that's ultimately what we've built, right? So Frank's probably a bit more advanced in regards to tech, but even him, we've got our CFO now working on his planning. Now, he's not AI, but he's got that brain. Rawad, super techie guy. He's getting our CRM all sorted and whatnot. So probably not too qualified to answer about AI and whatnot because I've got no idea about it. But what I will say is that, yes, we absolutely need to rely on it. Research, the perfect example, right? Mm-hmm. Frank's head of research team. He's now going through essentially a 12-month program, not program, but a 12-month adoption of bringing AI into that, which is just going to save time, more accurate data, no guesswork, which there is no guesswork anyway, but yeah, definitely do adopt it. But amazing. I am the worst person for it. And maybe, I don't know.
So you think it'll help speed up the research and make, I guess, it more accurate in terms of...
Yep. I mean, and also customer experience as well. Like, I mean, CRMs are... Everyone knows about CRMs. That's not AI, but we've got... we pay someone just to manage all the tech, just to manage all the back end stuff. Again, I've got no idea about any of this stuff, but yeah.
One thing that I'm interested in, right? Because we were speaking about this, and you were the first time we caught up, you're like, "Fuck, you know a lot about this space." I've got some clients in this space, yes. in sort of the higher volume space, and it's small networks working within. Mortgage broking, lending and stuff like that. Because a lot of, if you look at a financial planner, a lot of them are setting up SMSFs for these type of properties. And I'm always interested in the research and the areas. And one thing that when I was looking at you guys, I was like, it's an incredible track record, right? Talk to me about the actual results and the outcomes, and sort of the... because I think there were some statements around sort of, I saw all the posts around recent purchases and growth within just a year.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit more about, so what you guys are doing in terms of the actual results for your clients.
Yep. Again, I don't want to make this sound really, really simple because it's obviously hard to do this, but it also is really, really simple. Property doubles every 10 years. Mm-hmm. The doubling usually occurs within a 5 to 6 year period. It's just a matter of, can you select a region in the first year of its growth phase? Now, there's a whole bunch of metrics, right? But it literally will take us months to select and find an area, right? Again, it's not my place of expertise. It's the research teams. However, we've now done it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, right? Like this year we'll purchase close to 300 properties. It's the same process of identifying the region at the start of its growth phase, year one, having that property double. That's the goal for us. Your property doubles within a 5-year period. Whether you do something or don't do something, that's the goal for us. Like our average growth rate year one is 18%, which is just madness, right? Like people go, well, that's crazy. How do you... But it's the same process. It's like if you bought a property in Melbourne in 2012 to 2019, the property's doubled in half, right? Every single year, the average growth rate's going to be 18, 20%. It sounds crazy, but if you just have the ability to identify when that market is, when 2012 is in Melbourne or Sydney, you have the same ability. The problem is it's very fucking difficult to do that, right? Because it's hours and hours. Like Frank will go back to 1975 of a region to identify the trends that have occurred, and literally months. But yeah, that's our growth rate. Our growth rate is 18% first year, and ultimately the goal for us is, property doubles in 5 years. We've had clients double a lot quicker than that. 3 years is the record.
Crazy.
Yeah.
In my industry, there are, like, part of the reason why I got into this space was because I believe that it was done incorrectly. Like, I'd used recruitment agencies, had a really bad experience, and it's funny because I'm one of them in terms of in that field, but I really try and like disassociate myself with them because I think it's very, very transactional. There's very little care. It's all about, oh, sweet, we got our money. Don't worry about, how that person performs, right? Is there, I know some businesses within your industry, there's a certain stigma. How do you talk to me about your feelings about that and how you actually approach like differentiating yourself as well?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the thing that we hold very, very close to our heart is where the company started. It started from us going through pain. Mm-hmm. So the whole mantra is, we don't want anyone to go through the same pain. That's the first thing. Now anyone can say that, right? Mm-hmm. But the real stuff is every single property we buy, hey, I personally have a property around the corner. Or, hey, Frank's got a property around there. Or one of our buyer's agents just bought a property themselves there. So obviously we believe in what we do to the point where we put our own money there. I think you said something about like aftercare and, they buy the property and then they fuck off and like no one talks about it.
Yeah, I mean, like, we have a, it's now a process, but, I always used to just check in with people because that was the satisfaction of like placing someone. It's like, hey, how's it going? Oh, you're enjoying it? Fuck yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, but that's not normal.
every 4 months, like a very, 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 precise train that just comes in. Every 4 months, we're running valuations for our clients. And every 4 months, they sit down with Frank and they just go over the strategy, whether they're ready to buy or not ready to buy. They'll go sit over the strategy and we'll go, cool, well, we're going to be about 6 months away. Or, hey, show me the bank account. Show me what's happening with that loan account. You're sitting with the director of a company every 4 months. So it's literally the complete opposite of that. Now, part of that is service, but part of that is, that's what Frank never got. Mm-hmm. Frank, when he bought the property and it went 60K under market, never heard from him again. They called him 2 years ago, or 2 years after it happened, and said, do you want to come on our podcast?
No, they didn't.
Yeah, they did. They just didn't know. That.
Oh, wait. So he's now running, like they didn't know he was previously a dissatisfied.
No. They knew he was a customer. They didn't want to talk about property, his business. They just wanted to say for him to come on to their podcast to talk about the property that they purchased for him. As a client, not as a buyer's agent.
You surely would check who's left some positive feedback before doing that.
We hear it all the time, man. It's such a separator or such a differentiator that we sit with you. You'll sit with the directors of the company. Well, like today, I sent happy birthday to a client in their WhatsApp group, right? Like that should be the norm. So if there's any buyer's agents watching, like make sure that there's aftercare, genuinely, because that's what people remember. On settlement, they get like 15 messages and well done, like congrats.
Yeah,
like
that's awesome.
I have a personal meeting with the client after the call, every single client. Mm-hmm. And I'll say, tell me how the service was. Tell me about the bad things. Tell me about the good things.
Love
every
that.
Client.
And I think that's the value at the start of being small, right? Like a few, like pretty much every smaller business or even startups that we've had on the show, right? It's when you're small, you've got that ability to have that feedback loop, right? Imagine being, a Tesla. It's really hard to know like what the experience is like for their customers, but you can call them and be like, hey, like what was good? What was bad? What did you enjoy? What can we do more of, less of? And I think that is overlooked at times that you can do that. Like, oh, how should I improve? Well, like call one of your clients, call one of your customers. Do you know what I mean? What do you guys actually want? That's the best market research you can do.
100%. I say that I coach now. I coach just a handful of businesses. If there's ever a problem, I always say just go to the customer. Ask the customer. We're very lucky that every client, like a regiment, like I don't organise it, my assistant manages it, but every client that settles, it's called a wrap-up meeting. Every single client, I have a 15, 20-minute conversation. Every client. And I will literally say, tell me the bad things. I don't want to hear the good things. Mm-hmm. and then we turn it into a meeting. So it's like, if you just do that 500 times, 600, like it's impossible not to have like an elite level service.
I love that. What's the structure right now in terms of like, how's it set up? So lead comes in, sales team, I think you're still doing that part of the process. And then like, yeah, just walk me through it so I can understand sort of the layers into the business and how it's structured.
So a lead will come in, whatever channel. Alex, who's our setter, will essentially qualify him. I'm happy to be doing this, but I'm now back into sales. I took a good amount of time off, but the gentleman who was in it, he moved on for whatever reason. So now I'm back in sales. So,
temporarily?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, I'm literally looking to hire as we speak. So I will be asking you for assistance on that. Shameless plug.
Let's do it now.
Yeah, let's do it now. Let's cut the... So sales team, myself and Alex, if a client obviously is onboarded, they get put into their WhatsApp group, and then ultimately it's meeting of the buyer's agents, meeting of the client success team. Buyer's agents goes out and buys the property. Client success team manages it from buying all the way to settlement, and then everyone celebrates throughout. Frank builds a plan. I probably missed that part. Frank is still very involved in the planning. However, his lead buyer's agent is just about to step up, so Frank will officially be off our clients, in about a month's time.
So you're almost both off the tools.
As soon as this new person is hired, both Frank and I will be off the tools, which is exactly the plan. Exactly what the plan was.
That's exciting.
It is exciting.
Yeah.
It is exciting. I'm nervous because I'm definitely a control freak to a certain degree. Yeah,
it's an interesting point. Like, I've got, plans in place for that to happen, and I need to force myself to do it.
Of course.
Because, like, A, I love it, but B, there's always that thing. It's like, I can convert it better. I can do better at it. Do you know what I mean?
Of course.
How has that been in terms of trying to change that mindset?
Yeah, I mean...
Give me some advice around that.
It's fucking hard, to be honest with you, dude, because, I've been now on sales calls for 4 months again, and we've saved $20,000 a month in commissions, and conversions are at 50%, which is very, very high, right?
Compared to?
We need a KPI of around 30%. So you're going to pay $20,000 a month, and you're also going to convert less. So ultimately, it's $40,000 a month.
Yeah.
It's decent money. But what can I produce with that same time? And that is ultimately the question. And that is ultimately, I mean, it's crazy for me to even say this because 5 years ago I would be thinking about $40,000. But I now, my monthly rate is now more than $40,000. That's what I can produce.
Talk to me about that, because I'm working with a new business consultant as well. Right. And last week he was getting me to do that exercise on hourly rate. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? To understand what is your time worth? What tasks should you be doing to try and get me out of this mindset of basically doing everything, right? Talk to me about that shift and that sort of analysis and that shift to be able to say, okay, actually no. Like, even if it is a $40,000 loss?
I think you need to be careful, and I don't want to, I think you need to be careful in answering this because it still can be very detrimental, and there's a perfect time to do this, right? But a perfect example is I'm going to be selling, one-on-one, and my hourly rate will be, $1,500 an hour, whatever the fuck the number is, right? Or we can go to a seminar, which we are now planning on doing, or will be doing every 3 months, and there'll be 200 people in the room and 40 people will sign. And all of a sudden, if I'm doing sales calls at the $40,000 a month, what I'm doing is leaving a $200,000 a month from that's just one example,
Understood,
right? Yeah. But I also think that you do need to be careful, right? Like, I'm not going to throw 100% off sales. I still need to be there, maybe go half and half with the new salesperson. Building the pod, there needs to be, I think the big thing is there needs to be projects, and it needs to not be tested that it is going to be worth more than you being on sales calls. Let's just use that as an example. But there needs to be an argument that it is actually going to be driving more growth, driving more revenue, driving more profit for the company. And I'm actually not even at that point right now, right? Like, I'm still building out what I am going to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I will build out arguments for every single one. I'll say, cool, well, if I go and meet with a referral partner, or if I go and do a seminar, and if I go and do X, I will build it out. I'll present to our leadership team, and I'll say, boys, now is the time. So I don't know if I've answered the question.
No, you have, for sure. I think you've got to have a plan with it in terms
Correct.
of like, if I'm stepping off there, where else am I going to invest my time that's going to,
Yes.
produce?
And it's not all about the time.
It's opportunity cost, right?
It is. The reason why I'm saying that you need to be careful with this is because, like, you hear people say, well, I'm not gardening or doing anything so I can pay someone for $20 an hour for if I'm paying, myself $1,000 an hour. Like, you always hear that term. Like, that's very monetary. Like, that's straight down the dollar, and it's all dollar. I think the big thing here, and the reason more so for the shift, is because I've put in 5 years and I want to do other things. I want to come here and sit with you for 2 hours and not have to be on a sales call. I want to, with running our own new podcast, I want to get in front of a stage and talk. Like, I think for me, there's
the value, right?
But it's a value, but it's also more than just dollars as well. So it's kind of two-way street. I work till 8 o'clock most nights on sales calls. Very happy to do so because I love what I do. I love talking to people. I love helping people. But I want to have a family soon as well, and I want to do things. And to be honest with you, I'm very lucky because I've built up a business which can afford to do that. Even if it's a 30% conversion and $20,000 for us, we're at the point where we can do that.
Because it's a vehicle at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, it is.
It is. And I was having this conversation with Adrian Ranieri, asset fund. Oh, you know Adrian? No, I'll introduce you.
I'm a little hermit, mate. I don't know.
No. And he's always wrestled with this idea of like growing, scaling, having a team, but he's automated so much of his process that it's all, it's AI driven. They get they fill out their own applications. It's all self-driven, self-guided. And he has what he's looking for. You're generally trying to create a business so you can have that financial freedom. You can have the ability to go on holidays. He essentially has that as a small,
Love it.
Two-man business at the moment. So like he's already achieved that. And I think that's the thing you've got to understand. It's like it is most of the time a vehicle to get you to here. And it doesn't always, it can come in different shapes and forms as well.
I agree. And there's no playbook.
Exactly.
And anyone can sit up here and say what they want, but there's no playbook, right?
Well, that's the thing, right? No one has any idea. That's the thing that I've started to realize. Doesn't matter the size of the business. We're all just working it out still at the end of the day.
100%.
What's I know you said seminars. There's a few things on the cards. What does the next few years look like in terms of the plan, growth strategy? Where do you think you guys will be?
Fresh Start Advisory will be the number one buyers agency in the country by 2027. We've got it written up on our wall.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. No, well, it will be the case. And when we get up there, we've already planned our speech. But yeah, there's a lot of those things. What
does that look like? Like, what do you actually need to achieve to have that title? Is there like an award ceremony in your industry?
Yeah. There's an award ceremony. We're currently putting our first ever thing into for this financial year, which is pretty cool. So that's what's currently happening. But ultimately, there's like a revenue amount. There's clients helped. It's almost the way that you put it all together, if I'm honest. Yeah. But that's the goal. That's the whole company's goal. Mm-hmm. In regards to what the strategies are over the next 12, 24 months. This seminar stuff, I think, will be a huge mover.
I think so as well.
For us.
In-person events? Yeah,
in-person events all across, I think, across the 4 main states.
Nice, that's big.
Yeah, which is really exciting. We've just hired a coach to help us with that. So we've got our first session with him in 2 days, actually, funny enough. So it'll be next year. That'll be the first one. So that'll be really big. It'll be scaling in the ad space and scaling with the sales team. Like that is a really big thing. And then, taking the podcast serious. We are now looking to acquire a few different businesses as well. An accounting firm, within the next 2 years, I'd imagine we probably have a brokerage firm. But it sounds boring, but just stick
that
to
stuff
the same
organically
thing.
Makes sense. Do you know what I mean? To do those sort of things in-house.
Those things for sure. But it's boring. Like we've now doubled 3 years in a row, right? doubled.
Wow.
And this year we are well on track to more than double this year.
Wow.
Both from a revenue profit point of view, ultimately. And there's been nothing sexy. It's just now we're going to do the same thing. To be honest with you, it's a lot easier. I remember I used to hear the term, once you're getting to $1 million is a lot harder than getting to 10 million. I 100% agree with it. Like we will probably be at 10 million within 24 months, right?
Is there, because I always hear as well, like that difficulty from where you're at now from 13, 14, 15 up to 25, and everyone's like, get to fucking 25 as quickly as possible.
You're talking buying, purchasing?
No, in terms of like sort of staffing numbers,
okay.
right? Because you're generally introducing other layers of management.
Gotcha.
You're coming off the tools because, you know what I mean? But there's generally more non-revenue producing roles. Have you found that that's sort of gonna be the case, or
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Potentially. I mean, you definitely need, like, now there's going to become kind of a second layer of management, which kind of disconnects myself, Frank, Rawad, ultimately. I don't know. We'll work it out.
We're about to find out.
We'll work it out.
You'll probably be at 25 in 6 months.
Yeah, maybe. And I don't actually look at, like, you're talking about your friend. I'm envious of your friend. To have two people and like, fuck, mate, that's awesome. Everyone knows. And listen, I love my team. My team is my second family, right? They really are. It's still fucking challenges. It's still people, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's...
I hear you.
Yeah. So I envy that. So for me, whether it's at 25... I don't necessarily... The beauty about the buyer's agency space is ultimately what needs to grow in order for us to double in size, as in value, like revenue and profit, that'll be the goal for next year. It's going to be double again. We probably need to hire one client success manager. We need to hire 2 more buyer's agents. And we need to hire maybe 1 or 2 more sales staff, like 5 more people. So... like, yeah, the size doesn't need to, we're quite a scalable business in that sense. We can just add a few more people to it, and we literally have the ability to double everything.
Sexy. Now,
it's nice.
Tell me,
Sexy.
The one thing I want to know,
Please.
to sort of wrap things up, right? You've been through some shit, right? Like you've sacrificed a lot, periods of not paying yourself, like moments where it's like, oh, this is it. There has to be something in you in terms of mental fortitude. Like what?
I'm fried. Completely fried.
Like in terms of like things you do outside, right? Like how do you keep yourself in the right mindset to, run a business and stay level headed and be successful?
Again, nothing.
Nothing.
No. I do a lot, but nothing crazy, nothing
Yeah.
sophisticated, right? I'm extremely big on my morning routine. I've got a very regimented morning routine, which doesn't consist of too many things, but I love to journal.
Okay. I've tried it.
I love it. If I could do one thing only, if I could remove everything else, I'd just journal.
Did you start it recently?
No. I've been doing it for 4 years.
Yeah, okay.
Journaling. I do meditate as well. And then I work out.
Yeah.
Like I work out. And I talk as well. I do like to talk to my people. I'm definitely not a very macho man in the sense I hold emotions in and whatnot. So I definitely talk and definitely get things off. But yeah, that's it. I definitely work out. Like I'm a different person when I work out. So that would be the most important. But then journaling has helped me so much from a business perspective as well. Getting my thoughts out onto a piece of paper, I think is very, very important. I learned it 4 years ago. But that and meditate, like there's.
Was it from the 5 a.m. Club? That's when I.
No. That was from a. I haven't actually read that book. I've been told to read that book. It was from
similar thing, right? It's he talks about meditation and journaling. Sort of in the morning.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. No, it wasn't. It was from a men's group ultimately. So our second ever coach, the gentleman that got us to scale from the ads, he runs a company which is like helping men in their health, wealth, and relationships, which is fucking awesome business.
Yeah,
and he taught us all of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
One thing that I've noticed, just to sort of finish things up, like it seems like a lot of the change has happened when you've engaged with people that know what they're doing in terms of coaches and you know, like how like to, if you're giving advice to people out there that are going on a business journey, how important is that to, you know, to engage with coaches? And
the most important for me. But again, both Frank and I are like, we're not the most intelligent people, not tech savvy, not like probably a lot of the things that you would probably say, oh, you need that to be, you know, no finance literacy.
But you're smart enough to know that you don't know it.
Well, but that's it. And like every single coach that's ever worked with us, is just flabbergasted with how we operate. They just go, da-da-da-da-da-da, have an hour session. By the next session, we've built the entire thing out, and we're just, yep, rock and roll, let's go. So I've always been really big on coaches, but that also depends on your personality. Like I'm super strict with my clients now, the coaching clients I'm talking about, the little side thing. I'm like, if you don't just listen to me and just do, because I'm here, right? I'm not saying this like a wanker, but when I started out, if you're 2 years in and you're doing 10 deals a month, well, you know something that I don't know. So I'm paying ignorance debt every single time that I'm going, nah, you don't know how to do it.
Ignorance debt, I like that.
Yeah, well, that's what it is, right? If I've got a portfolio and you've never had a property and never bought a property, you are silly to think that you know what you're doing more so than what I do. And there's going to be something, depending on the value and how much I charge and whatnot, you can determine it. But for business is business. It's millions and millions and millions of dollars. And if I can get to $5 million through a coach within a year, or get to $5 million in 10 years by myself, well, like, what are we even weighing up, right? So coaches are everything.
Logical from that sense, yeah.
Yeah, coaches are everything.
I agree. You know, I think, at times through my journey, I've been hesitant, and you know, I think it's just I think it's about finding the right one that just works with you. But for me, I need that accountability as well, right? Like
100%.
Not having a business partner, like I need someone to say, actually do this, and then, well, why haven't you moved quickly on that? You know what I mean? So,
Over-analysts, people who are very over-analytical and like to look at everything, it can be challenging for those people. We're definitely not that type of people. So it's not for everyone, right? I've spoken to some of some of the partners that we work with, and like, I would never go to a business coach. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Like, it's not for everyone. Works for simple-minded people.
Worth fucking trialing, right?
Yeah,
like, just trial.
I think it's excellent for the investment. Yep.
Awesome, mate. Well, pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on. And I'm waiting for your call next week for these new hires.
Cha-ching. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it very much. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to The Leap. If you enjoyed this episode, give us a follow, or even better, share it with someone who you think will get value out of it. Big thanks to our main sponsor, Ethos 360 Recruitment. It was actually just us sponsoring ourselves.
This podcast has been produced by The Content Engine.
We got the remedy. College Giants.